Hello, I am your host of the Sportsway Podcast, Bryson VB. I'm joined by my longtime best friend and co-host of the Sportsway Podcast, Austin Van Berkleo. VB, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good, Bryson. Thanks for asking.
It's very disappointing. The way we lost, I think, was very, very disappointing. Game one, we got walked off. It happens. Game two, we had the bases loaded, two outs, and we couldn't get one out. I think we walked in a couple runs and then a couple singles. And then game three today, we had the bases loaded early in the game with no outs, and we managed to get zero runs out of it. So you texted about it. You talk about that for a second while I get the NBA pulled up.
Yeah, so Rangers got swept by the Reds. It was a series that we really needed to take advantage of, especially with how well we were playing. At least needed to win the series, and we got swept
I,
all in one run losses. And the thing that faulted us throughout the series was our bullpen, which we had an AL best ERA in our bullpen this year, and our bullpen blew basically every single one of those three games. So it really hurts. It really does.
it it is disappointing. I mean, the Reds aren't necessarily a bad team. I mean, they're kind of on the come up. They've got a lot of young talent, but they're not where I think the Rangers were going into this week. I mean, they're what are they? They're 10 to 15 now. They're near the bottom of the Central in the NL, but I mean, they have some young talent. They're kind of like the Rangers really with the young bullpen, young arms. I mean, Joey Votto's still hurt, but I mean, they were without Joey Votto and they still beat us. But I mean, it is disappointing watching this kind of like mediocre Rangers come back in. I mean, we were on the rise. We won a couple games. I think we won every series up until that point, except for the Cubs and the Royals the first two times. So we've been on the come up. But I mean, it was disappointing to watch that game today at school.
Hmm.
But VB, let's jump right into the NBA, and then this podcast really is about the NFL draft. So we will get into that. But VB has a couple things to talk about with the NBA playoffs right now.
Yeah, so going back on our predictions from last that we did last week, I don't know if we showed those exactly on the podcast or if they were in some sort of Instagram post that we had. But so far, the biggest shock of the NBA playoffs is the Miami Heat. Yep, there you go. Yeah, go ahead and show off your jersey. Yeah, there you go.
Playoff Butler.
Yep. So the Heat are currently up five right now in the second quarter. I think Jimmy has four. He had 14 in the first. And 2 nights ago in Miami, Jimmy B had 56 points
56 points.
to bring the Heat down from I think 14 with like 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and they came back and won the game by 10. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen happen. Just Jimmy making 3 pointers down the stretch, which I've never
He
I've
doesn't do.
never seen him do it. He doesn't do it
He does
like
not
at
do.
all. I mean, to have 56 in the playoffs is ridiculous. I mean,
He's on a
that's
list
it was
with
absurd.
MJ and Wilt for
And
playoff
remember
points.
that,
Like
yeah, it's
he's up
crazy.
there.
And remember, there's only been one eight seed to ever beat a one seed, and it was the We Believe Warriors beating Bryson's Mavericks before he was even born. So I don't think it mattered. But that it would be crazy if they end up pulling that off tonight in Milwaukee, even with Giannis playing.
Um, the surprise team that I had with the Knicks. I think you were shocked about this. You didn't realize it. The game ended a couple hours ago. It doesn't really matter. The Knicks win the series against Cleveland 4-1. My surprise team. Don't mess with playoff Brunson. He was on the Mavericks last year. I know all about what he does in the playoffs. Helped us, carried us pretty much. I want to say not with Luca, but like alongside Luca to the Western Conference Finals. And he had, let's see, he and oh crap. He had 23 points tonight. He helped the Knicks beat the Cavs 106 to 95 in Cleveland, which is not a tough place to play, or it is a tough place to play, excuse me. And then that crowd brings it. Cleveland, the atmosphere with the fans, and so I think just the way that the Knicks are playing right now, they're going in with a ton of momentum, and I believe they will play the winner of the Heat Bucks series, so that would be a really, really good matchup. I know we kind of touched on it last week. The Cavaliers were the best matchup for or I guess the worst matchup for the Bucks. But in that sense, for the Cavs, it was the best. But now I think with the Knicks, they have Randall, who I think is kind of getting back to fully healthy, and then they have Mitchell Robinson, who obviously is a big rebounder for the Knicks. Kind of plays like those two guys from Cleveland and Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. So it will be interesting to see if the Bucks can even come back from this 3-1 deficit that the Heat have going right now.
Yeah, it'll be definitely very interesting to see. I mean, the NBA playoffs have been kind of crazy this year. It's been pretty unpredictable. Warriors coming back down to obviously the Jimmy Butler 6 point game we talked about, and the Boston and Atlanta are now going to a game six, which I bet absolutely no one predicted going into the series. Trae Young hit a game-winning shot, a game-winning three-pointer from
Did his
in.
little celly, those little
Yeah, he
ice
did
cold
it
tray.
in. Did it in. Did it in Boston. He basically shot it from the
Yes, he did.
logo.
He did it in Boston.
Yeah, won the game for Atlanta, especially after the media. The media gave him a lot of crap throughout the week for not shooting the ball enough, being passive with the ball, and I think he had 38 and 9. Uh, what was that last night? And so that was definitely a sight to see. But yeah, you want to go ahead
Um,
and get into the
yes, I just want to
get
start
to
off
the
with
game?
this. The Stars beat the Wild 4-0 shutout for Jake Ottinger, 27 saves. Jason Robertson finally scored another goal in the series. He had 2 points with 1 goal and 1 assist. Dallas goes up 3-2 in the series. Take for a chance to take the series on Friday in Minnesota. Will be a tough atmosphere. Minnesota has brought it all series. But that's pretty much it. So big news on Monday, VB. Let's just jump into this. Aaron Rodgers traded to the New York Jets, as well as pick number 15 and number 170, while the Packers traded Aaron Rodgers to get pick number 13, pick number 42, pick number 207, and then a 2024 second round pick. But if Rodgers plays 65% of the season, it turns into a first round pick. So one of the questions is, does this make the Jets a contender?
Um, no.
I agree.
I'm gonna say no. It's gonna be unpopular to those that are listening. I'm surprised you actually agree, but I was just kind of thinking over in my head right now. I mean, they won 7 games last year.
Hmm.
I think it's gonna take a year for the Jets because I see contenders as, do you think they're Super Bowl contenders? They'll win the Super Bowl. I don't think they're Super Bowl
I
contenders.
think a
I
lot of
don't
the
think
Jets
they're
fans are just hoping to get back to the playoffs, but
Yes, I think they're playoff contenders. I do think that. I think they're a team that goes 10-6 this year. Obviously, they're in probably the hardest division in all of the NFL, the AFC East. But I think they're a 10-6, 11-5 type team. Um, I think Rodgers needs a year in kind of that offense. I mean, it will be his first. I mean, it'll literally be his first year not in Green Bay. So I feel like it's going to take a little adjusting to get used to the big city life. Although we all know Rodgers is a pretty unique personality in itself, but I think it's going to take him at least a year to really get the ball rolling in New York.
I I agree with you, and the reason I do agree, is because this offense, I don't really think they're all that. They're not like a really Super Bowl contender. I think yes, I agree with that. They are the playoff contender with Aaron Rodgers and Brees Hall, and then they have Garrett Wilson, McCole Hardman. They traded, or I think Allen Lazard signed, and then they have Corey Davis, who's been there forever. It feels like, and then they have the tight end Tyler Conklin, and then C.J. Uzama. I think they signed last year. And now a report came out today that they are eyeing Jackson Smith and Jigba with the 15th overall pick. That could add a
Really?
weapon for Rodgers. So it is very, very interesting. And I think they are a playoff team. But then again, you have three teams that were in the playoffs last year in this division. I'm sorry, you have two teams. You had three teams. No, never mind. Excuse me. You had the Dolphins and the Bills in the playoffs last year. Does so it kind of like the NFC East was this year with the Cowboys making it, the Eagles making it, and then the Giants making it. Could that happen in the AFC East? Like, could that be an AFC thing where we see three teams from one division make it, or are the Dolphins going to fall off, or maybe even the Bills? Like, I think the Bills have been good for so long. This could be something where an injury happens, or just they kind of like are rusty to start the season, and it starts off slow with the Jets having Aaron Rodgers now.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. I think people are extremely quick to jump the gun. As like, I would be quick to jump the gun if that Russell Wilson situation didn't happen last year. Obviously, kind of same era of quarterbacks, have the same pedigree, both have one Super Bowl, both have a bunch of all pros. People think they can succeed anywhere, especially in what people may see as like a better situation. And then you saw what happened with Russell Wilson last year. Just
Hmm.
absolutely fell off a cliff. I don't think that's going to happen to Rodgers, but I think people need to kind of have like a see to believe type thing with the Jets. But Jets fans should obviously be extremely excited because I think you're going to get a pretty substantial upgrade at quarterback over whatever Zach Wilson was last year. But
Hey, he's gonna work him in practice every day.
I saw
Like
that
that
report.
quote.
That's crazy.
Did you see he liked that? He liked that quote. Somebody found on his Twitter that Aaron Rodgers liked that, like the picture that ESPN posted of Zach Wilson saying that, like as soon as he got traded.
He was probably like, dude, this guy doesn't know how to work me. Pause. But
uh, so let's jump into this draft now. VB, I'm gonna rank my top four in no particular, actually in a particular order, one through four, best to worst quarterbacks in this draft because I feel like there are four
mhm.
main guys. Um, so my number one, I think I'm going off based off like potential and talent and everything. So my number one is Anthony Richardson. Regardless of what his stats were in 2023 or 2022, I think I think he's got the best potential. I think he's got the most upside that you could possibly have because he's so athletic. And like I said last week, the game for the quarterback position is turning into can you run and can you throw all in one motion or at the same time. And Anthony Richardson can do that. We've seen it at the combine, and we kind of saw it last year. I mean, he runs very well. He kind of runs like Lamar, kind of runs like Russell Wilson, kind of like Josh Allen. Those are three of the big guys that come into my mind. So I think Anthony Richardson it could be the best quarterback in this draft. Will he? I'm not sure because if he gets drafted into a situation like the Texans or like even Carolina, I think that could ruin his career. Um, my number two is Bryce Young. I think he's probably the best. He has the most potential, like the most upside, but I think Anthony Richardson potentially could be the best quarterback. So that's why Bryce Young is number two and not number one. Bryce Young's just your prototypical quarterback. I feel like you get in these NFL drafts. If Anthony Richardson wasn't here, I think Bryce Young would be the undoubtedly number one pick. Um, with no questions asked. But the way Anthony Richardson posted the combine, his athleticism makes me question it. CJ Stroud is at number three. I think that's a given. The reports coming out about he just doesn't care, doesn't really. I don't know what the reports are about that test that he took, that Bryce Young scored so high and then he scored so low. And then rounding it out is Will Levis. I don't like him. We'll get into it more in a little bit about his comparisons, but I just don't like him. I think he's kind of just a second to third round guy, but I think if he wasn't rated as highly as he was before the season, and then he had the season that he did, he wouldn't even be on these draft boards as high.
Yeah, I have a bit of a different view on Anthony Richardson. Um, I don't like his. You gotta love his intangibles. You gotta love what he can bring to the table with his arm talent, running like all that type of stuff. I don't think obviously I've never met the guy. Obviously, I probably will never meet him, but I just don't think that he has what it takes mentally to be a good NFL quarterback. Studying defenses, having being able to break down film, assess all these different types of things. I've read multiple articles that say this will be the reason he falters in the NFL because he's not going to be able to falter because of his arm talent, his legs. He has all the talent that's there. It's just I don't know if he'll be able to put it all together. So that's why I think you had his comparison as what Cam Newton, which obviously
Yes.
makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so he's my fourth quarterback I'd rank in this.
You have
Um,
him. Okay, hold on. What does he have that Will Levis has better? Like, what does Anthony Richardson do worse than what Will Levis is?
um, I think. Well, let me pull up the stats real quick. I don't know why. It's just kind of a gut feeling I have with Richardson, especially with all this news coming out recently that apparently Will Levis is now has the second best odds to become the number one overall pick in the draft.
I
I don't like Will
see.
Levis.
I don't see the hype on Will Levis. I just don't. He
I mean,
wasn't.
insane arm talent.
Yes, but
Best arm talent in the draft. Just,
mm,
I mean, I honestly think they're both going to be bust. To be completely honest with you, I have Will Levis's four prediction as Ryan Leaf. And then I have his ceiling being a Brett Favre, someone who throws a lot of picks, insane arm talent. But I don't like Will Levis and Anthony Richardson as prospects at all, to be honest with you. So you can put him at four, 4A and 4B. And then I think I have C.J. Stroud as my number two prospect. You had his comparison to Jared Goff, which I actually kind of like. I think he will be a guy that wins 2 to 3 Pro Bowls, maybe he can be the quarterback of a Super Bowl winning team, but I don't think he'd be the reason a team wins a Super Bowl. Um, can see him kind of sitting around that 10 to 14 range throughout his NFL career. Just a pretty good NFL quarterback. And then I think Bryce Young has star potential and his work ethic and the way he's able to dissect defenses. It's just his size and his frame. He's so shifty in the pocket to where I don't think he's going to take those blindside hits or those like crackback hits that really injure a quarterback for a long time. But just his intangibles and the way he's able to read defenses and the composure he has in the pocket, the way he's able to lead a team down a game-winning drive. Like I've rewatched that Alabama drive he had versus Auburn, the Iron Bowl versus Auburn, where he goes out into the field. It's just says a little prayer to God, and then looks up, looks down, opens his eyes, and I'm like, I remember seeing that live, watching that game live, and I was like, oh, it's over. It's so over. Like on the 1 yard line, like the composure he's able to have is just he's killer. It's just can his time like we've never seen as tiny as a frame as Bryce Young outside of Kyler Murray. Just no meat on his body at all. I think he's like a buck 80, 5'10", a buck 80,
Yes,
something like that.
I think he weighed in at like 185.
Yeah, extremely small for a quarterback, and not a run first quarterback at all either, which I think is a good thing for the longevity
Yes, I
of his
think
career.
it is too.
He's got to build an O-line behind him, but I like Bryce Young a lot. You had his comparison as Drew Brees. I had his comparison as Russell Wilson, and I have
And
his. Yeah, go ahead.
I have his ceiling as like a Drew Brees, Russell Wilson type, because I mean yes, obviously the comparison is going to be that because he's smaller, but I think Russell Wilson might fit the mold more as to what Bryce Young could be, because I mean yes, Russell Wilson was the reason they got to a Super Bowl, but one play call away, and we're talking about Russell Wilson in a whole different light as to what we are right now. Like, I think a dynasty could have been born in Seattle if Russell Wilson, like, so I think his comparison is his ceiling is Russell Wilson, Drew Brees as well. I think Drew Brees has a little less of an arm than Bryce Young does, but I mean, it's not anything to like. I'm not saying he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I'm just saying like the way Drew Brees plays, the way he reads defenses, the way he is a leader on and off the field is what Bryce Young brought to Alabama and that program every day.
Yeah, I really like Bryce Young as a prospect. That is for being Dak Prescott, which kind of hits a little bit with Cowboys fans. But I mean, game manager, good leader, can make the throws when you need him to.
Hey, for
But
that to be somebody's
that's like his
floor, that'd
floor.
be pretty good.
Oh yeah, Dak
Like,
Prescott floor is amazing. A
yeah,
top 10 quarterback's floor. That's awesome
that'll
for
piss some people
Bryce
off.
Young. Yeah,
That
but
will piss some
whatever. It's
people
true.
off.
Just admit it. Dak will never be better than Lamar Jackson. He'll never be better than he doesn't do. That's another topic we've already talked about that before. But
Um, so I have a couple of hot takes. I mean, we're not done completely, but I have a couple of hot takes that I want to get into, and you can add some hot takes as well. Um, one of my hot takes is Bijan thrives wherever he goes, regardless of what people are saying. And I know some people in the media don't like Bijan. A lot of people really do. A lot of people think he is one of the top like four prospects in this draft. I'm comparing him to Saquon Barkley. I'm comparing him because he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's kind of a wear and tear running back, kind of like Saquon was. I mean, as you as a Texas fan know this completely, it was 4 or 5 yards every play. You're going to hand the ball off to him 20 times, and he's going to break one eventually, regardless if it's late in the game or if it's even the first play of the game. Sometimes that happened, but like it's 4 or 5 yards consistently, and then he breaks one. I really do think he can maintain this in the NFL wherever he goes, and a lot of people in the media don't think that like running backs, and obviously this has been proven now with the way Zeke and then Saquon obviously has been handled in the draft. But obviously, I'm not saying don't draft him as high as a top 10 pick. I think he falls out of the top 10, even maybe the 15 if we get there. Um, but I think wherever Bijan goes, he's gonna thrive like Saquon Barkley is with the Giants right now.
hmm
And
I I I yeah.
that's not
Go ahead.
necessarily a hot take. It's just like a something because I've seen a couple reports that like people aren't really liking the running backs even in the first round, and that's like that's realistic. But I think Bijan's just a different talent. He's someone that we haven't seen in these past drafts since Saquon Barkley and since Ezekiel Elliott, and like even Leonard Fournette, I could say coming out of college.
Yeah. I love Bijan so much. He's probably my favorite Texas player I've ever watched in my entire life growing up. He's such a special character person that I mean he's gonna line up anywhere he goes. He's absolutely killed all pre-draft interviews. That's why I like he's such a good person to where there's no way he falls with the Cowboys at 26 unless we trade up for him. There's just no way
He
a
might.
team will.
He might.
I don't think there's any way. Every team's
And
so
if
high
he
on him.
is, we're going to the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, for sure. But what was I gonna say? Just everyone loves Bijan so much. I don't think he falls at 26, which sucks because he killed the pre-draft interview process. Um, he's an amazing running back. He'll do anything. Like there's not a lot to say. Bijan's amazing. He's one of the best running back prospects we've ever seen ever. And the only reason he's not going in the top 5 is because this is a different era of football to where he's going to give you 5 to 6 years probably.
The running backs are like where like they are just the easiest position in football to replace because there are so many good ones out there. We saw with the guy, I think it's Tajay Spears from Tulane. He kind of had a breakout game. Excuse me, versus USC in the Cotton Bowl this year, and he has boosted his stock up, and I think he's as high going in the second round, which is kind of like the first round for running backs now. Like we saw Brees Hall get drafted early in the second round. Like that's kind of like where you're gonna see the good running backs go in the NFL draft now. So for Bijan to be drafted, considered to be drafting in the top 15, is a win in his book. Um, and I do like Bijan a lot. I think there's a lot to love about Bijan. He brings it. You could line him up at receiver. You could line him up at any position, pretty much anywhere, and he's gonna give his effort. He's gonna give 100% effort all the time. And you obviously know that firsthand. So the second hot take I have, and this, I was thinking about this today, and I was like, well, I don't know. And we're going to talk about our mock drafts in a little bit because we have our final mock drafts, which will be posted tomorrow morning, hopefully. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's if Bryce Young gets drafted number 1 to the Texans, which it's really looking like that. I'm sorry, if Bryce Young gets drafted number 1 to the Panthers, excuse me, the Texans either trade back or they will draft Will Anderson. I really do think the Texans are set on Bryce Young, and if they don't get him, I think they do not like C.J. Stroud, and I think their rebuild can wait, whether they trade back or they get Will Anderson in the draft, because Caleb Williams is the
Yes,
is the
yes.
pinnacle quarterback of
He
next.
is the
Like
camp he is
I
the
think
can't miss
Texans
prospect of the
fans
last
and
10 years.
and that's where I was like, does this make sense? And it's because Caleb Williams next year, the Texans fans can wait next
And
year
Quinn
until
Ewers.
next year.
And Quinn Ewers. You can
Mm,
there are two absolute can't miss
no,
generational type quarterbacks in the next
there's
draft that
one.
are going to go
There's
1 and 2.
one.
There's two.
There's one.
There's going to
There's
be
one.
two after this football season. I
Okay,
promise. I
after
promise.
this football season.
I'll put a
Okay, you're
thousand
right.
bucks on
You're right.
it. Yes.
Quinn Ewers beat out the greatest prospect of all time. You're right. I'm sorry. No disrespect. But that's what I'm saying. So Texans fans, if Bryce Young gets drafted to the Panthers, I, as a GM, would look at the tape. I'm not going to draft CJ Stroud. I
Mm.
could consider drafting Anthony Richardson. But are they really better than Caleb Williams? Like, are they really going to be better than Caleb Williams in the long run?
No,
Is it worth it?
neither of them two will be. Maybe
Is it
Bryce Young
worth
has
it?
the potential to be, but I it's like
So
60 40.
that's what I'm saying. So like you trade that pick back, or you just draft Will Anderson. Your defense would get younger.
Oh
Your
yeah.
defense would get better. Like it just makes sense now. You trade back a couple picks to like the Colts. The Colts would take C.J. Stroud at number 2. You could get Will Anderson at number 4 if he falls, or Jalen Carter, which we will get
Or
into that
Tyree
when we
Wilson
talk
like
about. Like yeah, no, there's a ton of options that they could go to. So I think if Bryce Young gets drafted 1, the Texans, you could see a trade happen with the Texans, or we have seen the Texans text, and they're probably going to draft Stroud at 2, take a chance on a guy that's probably not going to be anywhere near as good as Caleb Williams. So I want to get your opinion on that, and then
or
if you
Quinn
have a couple
Ewers.
takes that you have.
Yeah, I actually like that. I do like that take a lot. I I think that's kind of like what we want the Texans to do, but I actually do think the Texans will end up taking Stroud. I
Which sucks for
think I
Texans
have to do.
fans.
I have to kind of look around on Twitter a little bit, find a little bit more of what the Texans are thinking. But obviously, they're a pretty incompetent franchise, not a good drafting franchise at all. I think
No,
we would
not
love.
not at all.
I think the best move would be to trade back and then get one of the young defensive players that you can find at that spot in the draft.
I
But I
mean,
don't think they're gonna do that. To be
we're
honest with you.
one we're a couple months like we're Will Anderson having the best season of his life away from maybe Will Anderson being considered for the number one overall pick because he's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah, did not have a good year.
Like he 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 got in trouble with the penalties. Like he got all he when he got frustrated, he had false starts. That was very evident in the second game of the year against Texas. Texas fans had him rattled the whole game. Like he jumped off sides a couple times, uncharacteristic of him. So I think if Will Anderson has a season like he had his junior or his sophomore year, I think he possibly could go as high as two. But that's what I was saying. Like
Mm-hmm.
Texans probably trade down to 4 or even 7 and just hope and pray that Will Anderson or Jalen Carter or Tyree Evans from Tech is still there.
Yeah, here I have one of my hot takes. I absolutely hate this wide receiver class. After watching a
I,
bunch of film tapes on this wide receiver class, I don't hate this wide. No, I hate this wide receiver class as a whole
I
compared to years
there is
previous.
not really any good. This running back class is good. This
This running back
quarterback
class is very underrated. It's
this
a very sneaky
quarterback
running back
class is
class.
mid.
Yeah, this
There's
quarterback class is mid. It's better
there's
than last year.
it's better than last year's, but there's 2 to 3. No, there's like two guys that are top like 100% going in the top 10. Maybe Anthony Richardson maybe goes, but we don't know what the NFL GMs are thinking. And then Will Levis is probably going to go in the top 10, but I don't think he should.
Mhm.
So I completely agree. I will let you finish that because I really do not like this wide receiver class either.
Yeah, I mean the premier wide receiver class in here is Jackson Smith and Jigba, which obviously insane hands. More of a slot guy though. You don't have that premier big-bodied receiver that the NFL kind of loves nowadays. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I don't believe ran a 40 time at the combine. I
I think
don't.
he was still like kind of hurt. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he did not decide to run a 40 time, which does kind of scare me because obviously as a slot receiver, you want to be running in that low 4.4
Oh
or
yeah, for
high
sure.
4.3s, which he probably does not run. But if that's your premier wide receiver, I do like him. You have guys like Quentin Johnston who were perceived as this monster prospect that's going to go in the top 10 before all the NFL Combine stuff. Listed as 6'5" on TCU, rumored to run a 4.3, and then gets measured at the Combine 6'2", 6'2", 5'8" and a half,
Dude,
something like that.
he
He's my
plays
height.
big.
He's my height. He does play
If
big.
he is 6'2", he plays massive.
He does play massive. Insane hands from that spot. Did not run the 40 time I think a lot of people would want to see at his TCU's pro day, I don't
Pro day.
think. Inconsistently like an inconsistent route runner. Um Absolutely got shadowed and clamped in that college football championship game by Keely Ringo. Which by the way, I did have a question about this, just super quick. I loved Keely Ringo as a prospect ever since he came out of high school because he was supposed to be. It was his recruitment was between Texas and Georgia, so I followed him throughout his
Yeah.
college career. In pre-draft and mid-season mock drafts for like while college football was going on, he was a top. He was the number one corner prospect and a first-round draft prospect.
He
What went? Did
it
he get injured or did he run a slow 40?
I'm not entirely sure if he got injured. I don't think he did. I just think corners are so hit or miss. You got to have the mentality that F the world, I'm better than everybody that looks at me or stands in front of me. I don't know Keely Ringo at all, but I don't know. Maybe it rattled him a little bit, like the combine, or I don't know because he locked up Quentin Johnston in the national championship game. He did an amazing job all season playing defense. I, I I mean, I'm just going off of what Madden had. I mean, there was a draft where he wasn't really that good in Madden, so that's not a very good comparison at all. But
Yeah, well, yeah. Go ahead.
a lot of people are, I guess, agreeing. But I mean, heck, you never know. Corners gonna go under the radar all the time. Like we've seen it with Malcolm Butler, the guy from the Patriots. We've seen it with Anthony Brown. As much as I hate to say that as a Cowboys fan, Anthony Brown has been okay, but like just these lower drafted corners kind of like make their name, and the high drafted corners don't. We've seen that with Jeff Okuda as well.
Mm. Yeah. It seems to have him as an early second, late first round, which isn't as bad. I thought he was
Which,
like a
yeah,
two to second to third round
no,
guy, but like
I think he's a day one
like
or early day two.
6'2", 210, absolute man coverage lockdown corner. insane technique, two-time national champion, locked down the best receiver in college football, which he was this year. I feel like Quentin Johnson was the X
Yes,
factor
he was.
receiver in
I'll
college
agree
football
with you
this
on that.
year. Locked him down, and then last year went and locked Alabama when locked down. Wait, who did Georgia play last year or 2 years ago?
The
National
Jamison
championship?
Williams until he got hurt.
Yeah, he locked up Jamison Williams and locked up
I
John Mechie in the national championship
yes.
game, and had the game-stealing interception. Like just absolute studs. So that's sorry, went a little bit off track there, but yes, I
Oh
do
no,
not
it's
like
okay.
this receiver class. Quentin Johnson, decent prospect. Jackson Smith and Jigba, decent prospect. Zay Flowers, people are really high on him. Boston College receiver.
Ho-
I do like him as the
Hold on, no,
Cowboys
no,
take
no. You know
him.
what I'm gonna say? Jordan Addison. He was the best. He was the best
Mm,
receiver. He was the most hyped up receiver in college football coming into this year because he transferred to USC. He had a really good year at Pitt last year,
won the
and
Boy yeah.
then it kind of just fell off. Like he had the best. He has the best quarterback in college football. No matter what Bryce Young did, Caleb Williams is that like the best quarterback. And so I think like he kind of just had a down year. I don't know if it was injuries. I think he was hurt for a little bit, but I
His stats really didn't dip that much. Obviously, they dipped a little bit because he has more touches to fight for in that UFC offense
yeah.
or USC offense. But his combine numbers were pretty bad. I believe he ran a. Hold on. Go ahead and talk for a second while I look up his
I
combine numbers.
I lost my train of thought of what I was going to say, but I think like you said this receiving class is very poor. I mean other than those two Jackson oh, that's what I was going to say. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best. He might be the best wide receiver prospect I have ever seen. Like
Yeah,
Marvin
so
Harrison Jr.
he's the best wide receiver prospect I've seen probably
He
since
is
Jamar Chase.
no, he's better than Jamar Chase. As an LSU fan, I will like to say that he is the best wide receiver prospect I've ever seen.
He's pretty good. He's
Marvin
very
Harrison
good.
Jr. is unreal. The, he
Yeah.
is going to be the consensus number one now, barring an injury. Knock on wood. Hopefully, it doesn't happen. He is going to be the highest rated receiver in that draft, and he will be the first receiver taken next year's draft.
Hmm.
365 days, mark it, book it, whatever you want to do. He will get drafted first, not first overall, but the first wide receiver taken off the board
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah. So Jordan Addison he ran a 4.5 40, 32-inch vertical broad jump. So his measurables weren't that good. And then obviously Zay Flowers, a receiver that's really got under the radar. A lot of people like this year as a late first round
A lot of people
option.
have the Cowboys picking him, no?
Yeah, that's what I had in one of my mock drafts earlier in the month. But I mean, decent prospect. There's like really no like can't miss wide receiver prospects this year. You don't have a Chris Olave or a Garrett Wilson where you just absolutely love these receivers as prospects. It's just a decent, pretty underwhelming wide receiver class. So that's kind of my take. I don't really like this year's receiving
And
class.
there hasn't been a really good. I mean, was last year's draft?
Hello.
But I think that was the last
Okay, there you go.
decent one. But let's jump into this. We can end it on this. This is our top 10 for our mocks for our final mock round or final mock draft,
Mm.
first round. Um, so you can go
I
first
got
with
mine
just
here.
your top 10, unless you don't have it pulled up, and I'll do it. But it didn't really.
Yeah, go ahead and do it.
Okay,
Let me find mine.
so with number one, I changed it from Anthony Richardson. The Panthers are going to take Bryce Young. I think he's shown a lot. I think he's done about everything he could. He canceled all his meetings after he met with the Panthers, all his pre-draft meetings. So that was a really good sign. Panthers said something they didn't do it, but I think that's just the GM's way of saying like we aren't set. Like I don't know. Texans for number two, Texans fans. I know I had that take. I think they draft Anthony Richardson. I think he's the closest thing that you're going to get to potentially having an NFL superstar at your quarterback position since Deshaun Watson. And then number three, here's a trade that I have thought of. So Cardinals, Arizona. I saw this. It was trending or something on Twitter. The Cardinals are willing to trade their pick, and so I have thought of a trade. So the Tennessee Titans trade um, for their number 11 pick, number 41 pick, and a 2024 third round pick for the number 3 overall pick, and Tennessee drafts C.J. Stroud with their 3rd overall pick. The Colts then panic. They'll take Will Levis, so they kind of reach. That's 4 quarterbacks in a row. Yes, I know, but I think Tennessee sees the opportunity to take C.J. Stroud with the Texans making a mistake in their eyes, drafting Anthony Richardson.
Mhm.
Um, and then at 5, I have Seattle taking Will Anderson from Bama. I have the Lions at 6 taking Devon Witherspoon. They traded a bag of chips for Jeff Okuda
Mhm.
this offseason. Las Vegas, they will draft at 7 Jalen Carter. He might have off the field issues, but I think he's probably the best D line talent prospect in this draft and in a long time. The Falcons at 8 take Tyree Wilson. The Bears at 9 take Peter Skoronski, the left tackle or right tackle from Northwestern. And then at 10, the Eagles, even with Bijan still there, I think their defense is getting older. I think they released who am I thinking of? The cornerback. Anyway, they take Nolan Smith. They take a project kind of guy. He was injured for the Georgia Bulldogs this season. Their defense gets younger. I could also see them, like I said, taking Christian Gonzalez from Oregon, with Devon Witherspoon being taken at 6 with the Lions. But that's my top 10. I really do think the Eagles have an opportunity to make their defense better. I don't think they go offense. If they do go offense, they trade down and then draft Bijan at like 14 or 15. Um, so that's really my top. That's my top 10 in the first round. I post this on the Instagram for all y'all to see. VB, you can take it away.
Yeah, obviously, I think Bryce Young's going to go first overall. Bryce Young thinks he's going to go first overall. That's not too much of a question. Not going to spend too much time on that. I do think the Texans Texan, and I do think they do take C.J. Stroud. I think Stroud honestly tried to tank his draft prospect status by doing bad on all those tests. Because I mean, I don't know. I don't think we went into depth on this. He scored an 18% on one of the cognitive tests that they have all these quarterback takes. It wasn't the Wonderlic test. It was called the D2 or
It
Q2, something
Okay,
along
VB. It's
that.
just math. It's there
Is
was
it
an
just
NFL.
math?
It's like math prop. It's like Jimmy has a daughter. What or like Jimmy has 4 daughters. That's like the Wonderlic test, but it's kind of like math questions too. And
Mm.
so I think he came out and said, "I don't do math on the football field" or something like that. Like I know, and he said
And
something like,
18% is crazy.
"No, that is because Bryce Young scored like a 92,
He
like
scored a 98. Yeah.
98." Okay,
Yeah.
that's even worse for. He just must not have been trying.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I can honestly see him going like, oh, I just didn't really care about that. But it's kind of crazy how it's gone viral. But I do still believe he goes number 2 to the Texans. And then 3, I also have the Cardinals trading. I have the Cardinals trading with the Texans, actually. So I think the Texans get the 2nd and 3rd picks. I think the Texans trade their 12th overall pick and 2 seconds down the line. I haven't really worked out the true kinks of the trade, but if they
they have
think
so many picks.
yeah, if they think CJ Stroud's going to be their guy, then maybe you trade that first round pick next year. Um, and I think they take Will Anderson at this spot. It's not. There's no really denial that they want to go edge here at this point in the draft. So I do think they take Will Anderson at that point if they trade with the Cardinals. At 4, in my previous draft, I had the Ravens trading up to get this pick. I do not have that anymore, as it just seems that every like literally anything talking about Lamar Jackson is kind of
Died
gone
down.
stale. It seems like there's no movement going on there. So in the 4th spot, I have the Indianapolis Colts taking Will Levis, which I don't like that much. But
Yeah, because
I think it's no doubt they're going to go quarterback for the most part.
yeah, but
But
it's AK. I'm telling you right now. AK
yeah,
is the guy.
mm-hmm. Okay, sure. All right. But
I'm, you
I
come
think they
back.
take, okay, I think they take Will Levis. Yeah, I can't really explain it that much. I just think they take Will Levis. Number 5, I think with that edge being off the board, I think the Seattle Seahawks take Jalen Carter. They really liked him in pre-draft interviews. He was the consensus number 1 overall pick. I think right after the national championship game. Obviously didn't have a good pro day, didn't have a good draft combine,
Yeah, okay.
but
Well, hold on. I want to explain this real quick because the allegations came out or something came out where he charged? Was he booked? Was that the thing where
he had like a
he
court
was street
date
racing?
for I
It was a
believe.
street racing that his friend died. But anyway, so that was the pro day was after all the allegations, after everything. So he came in out of shape. He came in like probably like didn't want to be there. Like he just it was
Hmm.
forced. Like he was out of shape. He obviously hadn't been working out because of the allegations, because of everything, and so I think that kind of weighs on him. And so I just wanted to say that. So you can continue with that, but that's all I was just saying. Like I think the allegations, and that's why he had a bad pro day.
Yeah. Number six, I have the Detroit Lions taking Devon Witherspoon. It kind of seems they're zeroed in on a cornerback, whether it's Christian Gonzalez or Devon Witherspoon. It will be one of those two corners. They need athletic players in the secondary. They had the worst pass defense, one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL last year, and they want to get obviously someone to replace Jeff Okuda. At number seven, I think the Las Vegas Raiders go O-line. I think they do end up trusting I believe Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be their quarterback this year. But
Yes,
the Raiders go a line to get him some protection. I think that O-line will be Paris Johnson from Ohio State, one of the most polished draft prospects. In
I like him a lot.
yeah,
I
he's
think he's the
extremely
safest
polished,
pick.
very
He's the
safe,
safest pick for O line in this draft.
very good. Yes, so I think he ends up going seven to the Raiders. Number eight, I actually no. Okay, I'll have a Peter Skronsky from Northwestern going here. I think the Falcons obviously need a lot of O-line help. They really kind of want to see what Desmond Ritter can do at quarterback for them. They already have weapons for him in Drake London and Kyle Pitts, and now he just needs a blindside protection, which I think Peter Skoronsky, from the O tackle from
Northwestern.
Northwestern. Yep, Northwestern can do.
See, you can continue. I'm holding this thought real quick.
Mm. Okay, yeah, and then number nine, I think the Bears want to go here and get athletic on the defensive side of the ball. I think they want to get Tyree Wilson, long, lengthy edge rusher out of Texas Tech. And this is who I originally had the Seahawks taking because I believe they. I thought Jalen Carter was originally going to fall, but I don't think that's how it's going to be anymore. They want to get lengthy at edge rusher, and I think they can do that with Tyree Wilson. And then the Eagles here, obviously, they can literally pick from anyone on the board. I'm not going to say they choose Bijan Robinson because I can't deal with Bijan Robinson
I
going
don't
to the
think they do.
Eagles.
I think they go defense. Their defense needs help. They're
I think they
so
go
old.
defense here. I think they go edge rusher on defense, and I think that guy's Nolan Smith, absolute guy who won the combine over. I think ran a 4.44 as a defensive end at the combine, which
Yes.
is absurd. I believe he's 6'5", 6'6", super raw prospect, but someone they can develop into being a really amazing player.
Yes. I
Also went to
completely agree
Georgia
on
with
Nolan
Jordan
Smith.
Davis.
Okay, so the thought that I had for the Falcons is like they're not drafting a QB, even if there's one there, because worst comes to worst, Desmond Ritter leads you to the worst record in football, and then you get Caleb Williams next
Exactly.
year.
Why not?
Like I don't think.
Why not see what Desmond Ritter can do for
Yes, why
you?
not
There's no
see if
reason
you
not to.
have a guy that you drafted last year? You don't need to waste a pick, even if Anthony Richardson, even if Will Levis. I don't think CJ Stroud falls, but if CJ Stroud does fall, he's there. I don't think you take him because now if CJ Stroud falls, that would be a different story. I think the Falcons probably like CJ Stroud, but they probably haven't put much thought into it. Um, anyway, like I think you see what Desmond Ritter has. You draft O line. You're planning on Caleb Williams next year because you don't believe in Desmond Ritter. If
Hmm.
Desmond Ritter is something, I mean, you have a quarterback that probably can develop into being a half decent quarterback. But I mean, worst comes to worst, you just draft Caleb Williams next year with the number one overall pick if you're
Yeah,
the Atlanta Falcons.
and then super quick, number 11. I know you're probably wondering where Anthony Richardson was. I think he goes 11th to the Titans.
The Titans,
Yeah, so
I
I think
like
all four
that
quarterbacks.
actually.
I think all four quarterbacks go in the top 11. Titans have a new general manager. They were thinking about trading Derrick Henry, so they're just going to completely hit the blow up
Did
button
you
and
did you
go with
see
them.
where he was going to project it to go?
Who?
Derrick Henry's projected to go to the Eagles.
Yeah, I saw AJ
That
Brown tweet about that.
that would be unstoppable offense.
Nah, they literally have they're like running a Madden franchise. It's insane.
They are, but their defense is. I think their defense is not as good as they were last year. They're
No, they
old.
won't be. They lost a
I'm
lot of
telling you,
pieces.
they need to draft defense in the first round or like in any of those picks. I think they have two, three picks.
Yeah, they
They
have
need
two
to
first
draft.
round picks, which they can just go defense, and they
They
can
need to go
go.
defense. And I know I'm not help. I'm helping the Eagles out right now, but I'm saying like, it, and what's their owner because he's really smart. He's really good. He knows what he's doing.
Um,
Um,
whoa, why am I not? Why do I not? know that.
It's on the tip of my tongue, but anyway, he's a really, really good owner, and I think he's if Bichon's there at the second first round pick, yeah, they're going to take him obviously.
Yes.
But I think you have to go defense at 10. You
Howie
just
Roseman.
lost. Yes, Howie Roseman,
Yep.
really, really good.
GM.
Obviously they had a plan for releasing. Who is that corner that I'm thinking of? I am blanking. Big play Slay, Darius Slay. Sorry,
James.
Darius
They.
Slay. James Bradbury signed. They released Darius Slay.
No,
Um,
they didn't.
yes, they did. They cleared up cap space releasing Darius Slay this offseason. So I think they are smart in doing that because it
Oh,
clears
you're
the
right. You're right.
cap.
You're right. You're right.
And then they just need to draft. Maybe it's Nolan Smith. Maybe it's a project. But they drafted last year. They drafted a linebacker last year, so I could see them if Tyree Wilson's available. If any defensive line help
Wait, no,
is
no, no, no. They cut James Bradbury. They extended Darius Slay.
no, they didn't.
Yeah, I promise. I just looked it up. James Bradbury, or was it?
No, I promise you. I swear they released Darius Slay.
No, it says right here James Bradbury still on the Eagles. Darius Slay still on the Eagles. I think the one that got released was C.J. Gardner Johnson.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson was traded, I think.
No, he's still on the Eagles. I don't think they lost anyone in their secondary.
VB,
For some reason I think they did. Yeah, what's up?
VB. No, I'm pretty sure VB. He was traded or signed to the Detroit Lions. We look like idiots right now, but I promise you, Darius Slay was released.
I don't. I feel like I know that.
Wait. Okay, hold on. It says here Slay, a five-time Pro Bowler cornerback, received permission from the Eagles to seek trades last week. When there were no offers, the Eagles reportedly released Slay, period, but they never officially did release him, and the two sides were able to agree on a restructure Wednesday evening.
Yes.
So, okay, that's my bad. The reports that came out that said they did release him or they were thinking about releasing him, and I guess they didn't. I don't know what they did, but okay. So was it
They
Bradbury
resigned him.
then, or is Bradbury?
No, I think it was just like Bradbury resigned too. They have
Okay,
no
well
cap
then the
space though.
Eagles they still need to get younger at corner. I think Christian Gonzalez from Oregon is a very good pick, or Nolan Smith, like a project defensive lineman that you could just have there. They drafted a ton of D line last year. They drafted a ton of
Yeah.
defense last year as well, with a Jalen Carter type S with Jordan Davis, and then they also drafted a linebacker from Georgia last year. Anyway, two really good defensive prospects, and then I think they have to go defense at 10. If they don't, maybe O line help, but the Eagles are just going to get better and better because they have so many first round picks,
All right.
which
Well,
sucks as Cowboy fans, really does.
one last thing. Who did the Cowboys draft this year?
Okay,
Money
if
on the line.
Bijan's there,
You have your kids held hostage. I think
if
Bijan goes
if
before we pick,
Bijan's
so I don't think
not
we get Bijan.
there, see, Jerry really likes his receivers. Jerry really likes receivers, um, or linemen, but I don't know what line. I don't know what O line's going to be available. So I think the Cowboys. I think they're going to draft Zay Flowers from Boston College.
I like that pick. I think we draft Michael Mayer from tight end from Notre Dame. I
If
think
Dalton
Dalton Kincaid
Kincaid
goes.
is somehow there, Dalton
I
Kincaid
think
needs
he
to be
goes.
there.
I think he goes in the mid-teens. I think
Which
Michael Mayer will be
we
there.
don't even need tight end, but I think Dalton Kincaid's too
Yes, we
good to
do.
be. No, okay, yeah, but we have three tight ends, even
No,
minus
no,
Schultz leaving.
non-receiving tight ends. We need a tight end. I think
Mm,
we need a tight end.
yeah, I could see that, but we have so many young with Ferguson. I mean, I know we lost Schultz, but I don't know. If Dalton Kincaid's still there somehow, I think we draft him no matter what. But Jerry also does like his receivers, or we could draft an O lineman. Um,
Hmm.
honestly, we could go defense, but I think Zay Flowers is my pick. I'm gonna lock
No,
it
I don't
in.
want it. The defense gets scarce towards the end of the second round, so I'd rather stick with offense or receiver because at the spot where we draft, it's
Sleeper,
tight end
okay,
heavy, and running back, wide receiver
yes, sleeper
heavy.
pick, sleeper pick. I know this is very biased. My sleeper defensive pick. Be on the lookout next year. He's gonna get drafted either in the late first or early second round, late second round. I think he could possibly fall. BJ BJ Ojulari from LSU, outside linebacker, defensive end, kind of edge threat. He is like, okay, you give me that look, give me that look. He's hyped up like
I love you. I love
Caleb
you.
Chason went as high. It's only because he played on the national championship team, but BJ Ojulari, a name to look out for. Very, very productive at LSU. Um, Who does Texas have getting drafted besides Bijan? VB? I don't think anybody. I don't think anybody.
DeMarvin Overshown, actually. So
Oh, okay, yeah. He's gonna
I
get
guess
drafted on like day 3.
he's gonna get drafted in the second round. Calm down.
Oh,
That's
really?
weird. You
Really?
want to make a bet? I guarantee you he gets drafted second or third round.
No. Yeah, because the Patriots might draft him.
And we
He's
got
just gonna
Moro
go sit in New England.
Ojimo and Keontae Coburn. We have our D line getting drafted this year.
Yeah, that is true. Oh, you have the running back, the other running back, Roshan Johnson. I
And
like
Roshan
Roshan.
Johnson.
Roshan
So I
Johnson's gonna
actually,
help.
so to answer your question, I think we have more draft prospects than LSU has. So let's calm down
No,
a
we
little
got
bit.
Keishawn Booty, bro. What you mean?
He came back. He's coming back to LSU for another year.
No, he's not. He declared for
Oh,
the draft again.
yo.
He came back,
No, he
declared.
didn't.
He said he was coming back, and then declared, and then he came back, and then he declared again. I promise you, he's declared for the draft. He has a path to the draft in the NFL or the LSU Instagram. He just got posted.
Okay. He interviewed
Yeah,
this.
I
Okay.
know a thing or two, bro.
Oh, dude, congrats, man. Keishon Butte, best day 3 wide receiver ever. Supposed to be the number
New
one
England
wide receiver
Patriots wide
prospect.
receiver 1, bro. Don't disrespect.
Absolutely putrid combine stats. Vertical jump 29 inches. I
We don't
can
have to
jump higher
talk
than this
about
guy.
that. You want to talk about some bad combines? Just go to you go to Tom Brady, bro. We're in a five,
Dude,
like 6,
dude Keishon Butte's
40.
5'11", dude. Oh.
Small receivers thrive in the NFL. Tell me I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
small, slow, unathletic receivers.
Hey, whatever, VB, whatever. Um, so that'll be it. This will be posted in the morning, hopefully, before the draft, and then I'll try to get the mock drafts posted. That way, y'all can all look at them in the morning as well on the Instagram. So just be on the lookout for this video. Think every Wednesday now is what it's gonna do because I know your season's
Hmm.
ending Friday. I will be in attendance at that game. Um,
Yes, sir.
but thank y'all for listening. VB, anything you have else to say before we close this out?
Um,
Who? Okay, yeah,
uh,
no. Who
sh-
do you want the Cowboys to draft? Actually, I'll
I
ask
said
you
Michael
that.
Mayer. Michael Mayer, tight end. That's who I
Okay,
think we're going to draft. Who I want to draft
okay,
is Bijan.
okay.
Mm. Yes. Shout out to my boy Mr. Dan. He's one of the listeners to this podcast. Congrats on the Liverpool win today. Hopefully y'all end up making the Champions League. And shout out um shout out I'm blanking. Anti shout out to Tottenham Hotspur. Absolute terrible performance. Lost 6-1 against Newcastle. Absolutely destroyed. I woke up at 8 a.m. to watch that game. They decided to lose 6-1. I know you don't know a lot about Premier League soccer, but
Soccer. Yeah.
decided to lose 6-1, and now we have absolutely no shot at the Champions League. So, yeah.
Halftime update. Bucks
Oh
lead the
yeah.
Heat 69-63, and then the
Oh,
Warriors and Kings is tied with 4 minutes to go in the second.
good
So
games. Good games to
pretty
watch.
good games. I'll probably turn those on. I'm watching the hockey game right now, but pretty good games. A pretty good podcast. We will see y'all next Wednesday. Thank y'all for listening. It's been really fun, VB. See ya.